Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll ask Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton about how Senate Bill 1062 would affect city ordinances regarding discrimination. And an ASU law professor will talk about the legal aspects of SB 1062. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. 3 state senators who voted for a controversial right to refuse service bill now say that they made a mistake and they want the governor to veto the legislation. Senate Majority Whip Adam Driggs and Senators Steve Pearce of Prescott and Bob Worsley of Mesa say that the bill has been mischaracterized by opponents and thus is causing the state, quote, immeasurable harm. Pearce and Worsley also say that the bill was rushed and that they voted yes to keep the Republican caucus from tearing apart. Worsley says that he asked Senate President Andy Biggs this weekend to schedule a revote in the Senate, but the president declined. If SB 1062 is approved by the governor, how would it impact city ordinances protecting the LGBT community? To talk about that and more in his monthly visit to Arizona Horizon is Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton. Good to see you again. How you doing?
Great to see you. Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
You betcha. Thoughts on SB 1062?
Well, I think those 3 senators are right. The governor should veto that law. It is a bad law, bad for the city of Phoenix, bad for the state of Arizona, bad for business. It's a wrong thing to do. We shouldn't legalize discrimination. The city of Phoenix just last year, about a year ago from this date, passed a very important ordinance protecting disabled citizens or our lesbian, gay, or LGBT community from discrimination in employment, housing, or public accommodation. If 1062 were to pass, obviously it would upend that very important city ordinance. We sent a message about our values as a city, that we want to support and celebrate our diversity, that it's great for our economy to pass ordinances that says that everyone is welcoming here. And we've seen that Fortune 500 companies have passed similar policies, and that states that go in the other direction, unfortunately, will fall behind economically. So 1062 is the wrong direction for our state.
Were you surprised that the legislature passed 1062, and are you surprised at the reaction to it?
Yes, I am surprised that the legislature went ahead and passed the bill. I do believe the governor is going to veto and do the right thing on that particular bill. But yes, I think the message had been clear that divisiveness is really bad for business. If we want to be focused in on jobs, education, really building this economy in the right direction, building high-wage jobs, a higher educated workforce, science, technology, engineering, and math kind of jobs, companies that are interested in those kind of jobs really want to be in places that celebrate diversity, that welcome everyone to the workforce, that sends a message that every person is valued. And bills that go in the other direction show us that they're bad for the economy. We've tried divisiveness in the state of Arizona in the past. It didn't work. It didn't work out so good for us. And so I did surprise that the legislature went ahead and passed this bill, but I do believe that the message was set loud and clear. 1062 is bad for people, it's bad for business, and deserves a veto.
And yet those in support say that people, businesses, should not be forced to act against their faith. Businesses, folks in Phoenix, should they be forced to act against their faith?
Look, the reality is this. There are laws in place that have been pointed out in a bipartisan way by the business community and many others that are very active on both political parties, that laws are in place to protect people's religious freedoms in the workplace, etc. But when it comes to doing business in our community, in the city of Phoenix, we have spoken loud and clear through the mayor and council that we want an economy in which everyone is welcome, that everyone has a seat at the table. And if you're going to do business in the city of Phoenix, you're going to provide public accommodation, you have to do so in a non-discriminatory way. Discrimination is bad for economy, bad for business, and I do believe that the existing laws provide the protection that these people are seeking. This was an overreach and does deserve a veto by our governor.
If existing laws do protect these folks, and the supporters say this simply clarifies those existing laws and moves it from a government to the private transaction sector, again, first of all, is that wrong? And second, are you surprised at the reaction to this?
Sure. If the idea would be that it would legalize discrimination, particularly in cities like Phoenix that have gone the extra mile to protect, again, our disabled community and our LGBT community. We passed ordinances to send a message that we want to do all we can to be supportive of our diverse communities. If this bill would have to go in the other direction, the opposite direction, that is the wrong direction for our city, the wrong direction for our state. It's wrong for people. It's wrong for business, and I do believe, again, that it deserves a veto by our governor.
Last question on this. How wrong for business in Phoenix? What kind of an impact if she signs it?
Well, obviously this bill, just to pass the legislature, the governor hasn't even signed it, just the passage has caused a national and international uproar, putting a spotlight on our state, sending a message, once again, unfortunately, that Arizona is a divisive place. We're not a divisive place. We love our diverse populations. The city I lead loves our diverse population and wants to do all we can to support it. But when the legislature passes bills like this, unfortunately it sends a very wrong message. And of course, it would result in the kind of companies that we want to bring here, that we want to recruit here, that we want to add jobs here, high wage jobs, higher educated workforce, science, technology, engineering, math. Those companies are going to be less likely to come to a place that passes divisive laws. We saw it in the past when we've passed divisive laws. We would see it in the future, and that's why I'm confident our governor is going to veto this bad bill.
Do you think that Google would look at a bill like this? They're considering Phoenix now for this fiber optic network, this Google Fiber network. I want to get into that.
Sure, of course.
Does Google look at this and say, we'll have to wait and see?
I don't want to make it specific to any particular company. I don't think it's fair to that company. I would just say in general, if you're in an industry in which you have to hire a lot of highly educated people in science, technology, engineering, math, exactly the kind of jobs and industries where we're trying to build our economy, those companies, those entrepreneurs look to cities and look to states that embrace their diverse population. They don't want to go to places where the laws are dividing people. They want to go to places where people are united and come together. And so I think that would make Google Fiber or incredibly important projects like that less likely in the future if we engage in what I would describe as a self-inflicted wound and pass a bill that presents our state in a negative light.
Let's talk about this Google Fiber network. What is it?
Well, Google Fiber is an internet product that can provide internet speeds up to 100 times what the internet is currently provided. You could download a movie in about 7 seconds without all the buffering, all the time it takes. And they have selected 9 communities around the country to be at the forefront of this incredibly exciting project. And I'm certainly supportive of it. We're doing it in partnership with Scottsdale Mayor Lane, Tempe Mayor Mark Mitchell, all good friends of mine. We're going to work very closely together to make sure that Google Fiber actually does happen in our communities. It's good for education because students that often watch lectures online can do so without wasting time as lectures are being downloaded. It could happen in an instant. If you're a home-based business, maybe healthcare business, et cetera, you can download information much more quickly so you can do your job better. So it's good for economy, good for education, good for the digital divide. Those parts of town, they're going to offer free internet service, not at the 100 times speed, but free internet service. And the digital divide, making sure that all of our neighborhoods, including neighborhoods that aren't as wealthy as others, have a full access to the internet is very important for education. So there's a lot of good reasons why we should support Google Fiber.
And some of those neighborhoods are concerned about above ground lines. Will these do they have to be above ground lines? Can they be retrofitted to buried lines? What about folks, I don't know if I want to see the lines, I don't know if I want my street all torn up. What are you telling them?
Okay, so a couple things. First, some of it will be underground, some of it will be above ground. They don't want new poles put up. They want to be able to attach Google Fiber infrastructure to existing lines. So really what they're asking the city of Phoenix and Tempe and Scottsdale, the 3 cities are Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Tempe. What they're asking of the 3 cities is that we provide them the best team possible in terms of our public works team, our infrastructure teams, our planning teams, and we have an open mind so that they can provide this incredibly important service to the people of our communities in as efficient way as possible. Anyone that would make an investment of this size and magnitude, we would be open-minded to. They're not asking for a subsidy, they just want our best minds and support, and we plan to give it to them.
So no incentives and no investments offered to Google for this?
None. And we were clear about that, and they were clear with us. They weren't asking for any kind of subsidy. In fact, they would say that if there's any other companies offering internet at these speeds, you ought to do the exact same thing for them as you're doing for us. And I would do that. But when someone is willing to make an investment of this size and magnitude, provide a project of this import to the future of my community, to give my city a competitive advantage, I would be crazy not to do all I can to make sure that that project is successful. So Google Fiber is going to be a success in my community, and I plan to lead the way to make that happen.
Timeline for their decision?
Oh, look, we're meeting with them literally this week to get our technical people together to show how willing we are to be as supportive as possible. So, they're going to give us a checklist of items that they're going to need from us in terms of topography, in terms of where some infrastructure is under our city streets. The sooner we can provide information, the faster we'll get a decision. It's not an if they're going to come to Phoenix. If we can be the very best partner with Google Fiber, it's a question of when they're going to provide this service to Phoenix.
Is this a group operation with the 3 cities, or could they say yes Phoenix, no Scottsdale, yes Tempe, or any variation thereof?
Yes, it could be not all the cities. Each individual city is going to work their own individual plan with their teams. That being said, I want to send a message that this region is as welcoming and as supportive of an entity as important as Google Fiber for the goodness of the entire region. So believe me, I want Scottsdale and Tempe to be as excited and as open-minded as I am, and I believe that Mayor Mitchell and Mayor Lane will be. So this will be done successfully on a regional basis.
Before you go, temporary restraining order regarding release time, employee unions, the workers here. What's blocked? I mean, there's this labyrinthine kind of a thing. What does this restraining order mean? Does release time continue?
Okay, so there's a complicated legal situation. I'll give you the best answer I can in a short period of time. Judge Cooper of the Superior Court said that our existing release time needed to be changed. Last week at the City Council, we made changes that complied with the judge's order to change the way that we do release time. We're trying to act in total good faith to make sure we're listening to what the judge has to say and make the appropriate changes. There likely will continue to be legal action about that. On the other hand, one of our labor groups, the firefighters, actually challenged the city and said, no, you can't implement the changes the way Judge Cooper has asked, because that might be violative of our existing contract with them. There has been a temporary restraining order in that regard. So we're kind of getting pulled on both ends, and the city, with me as mayor and with this council, we are working hard to make sure that we're acting in complete good faith to comply with whatever orders are coming. And when we get differing orders, we're trying to make sure we're balancing both those out, that we are acting in full compliance with judge's order. It's not always easy. This is a very difficult process. It will get sorted out through the appellate court process. But right now we're kind of got differing opinions, and we're trying to appropriately sort those out.
You mentioned the activities that the City Council took. I guess the Vice Mayor and 2 other council members weren't on board with this particular activity of using this extra vacation, this bank of extra vacation time, to allow the union members to do union work, as opposed to release time, allowing union members to do union work. I think Sal DiCiccio said it was a money laundering scheme. What's the difference between the bank of vacation time and the release time in and of itself?
Well, of course, the use of the word money laundering is meant to incite. It's an insinuation of an illegal activity. You'll have to talk to the council member involved to see what backup he has for an allegation of that nature. Sometimes people do a disservice to their own cause when they overstate their case. I'll leave it up to him to have to defend words of that when he accuses the majority of the council of that sort of thing. That being said, what we used to do is, in the contract that we would sign with each of the labor groups, the release time would be costed out, meaning that that amount would be taken away from the benefits provided to the rest of the members of the labor group. Because Judge Cooper said a portion of that could no longer be used for union activities, we had to give that back to the labor groups. Instead of giving them money, which unfortunately is in short order at the city, it was given them in vacation time that they could then give out of their decision to the labor leaders for activities in furtherance of the interests of the labor groups. Again, it was done with the exact purpose in mind, in good faith, to try to comply with exactly with what Judge Cooper suggested the city had to do.
But was that Judge Cooper's intent? Because it sounds to me like her intent was this idea of work, regardless of whether it was negotiated or not, the idea of working on the taxpayer's dime, if you will, is a no-go. He's still kind of working on the tax. If it's extra vacation time, it's still the same thing, isn't it?
Well, no. I want to be sure it's absolutely clear that the issue was payments made by the city to the leaders of the various labor groups. Judge Cooper said that some of that was acceptable, some of it was not acceptable in her opinion. So we gave that back to the labor groups and said, you individually can decide whether you want to keep it or give it to your labor groups, consistent with our contract with the labor groups and consistent with Judge Cooper's order. I can tell you with full confidence that the city, our legal team, our management team, and the majority of the city council are acting in complete and total good faith in an attempt to try to fairly comply with the judge's orders, as we should.
All right, Mayor, it's always a pleasure. Good to see you. Thanks for joining.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me on.
There's much speculation as to what Senate Bill 1062 might actually do if it becomes law. Here to sort through some of the legal issues is ASU law professor Zachary Kramer. It's good to have you here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
All right, I got a lot of questions for you. Ready to go?
Let's
All right.
do it.
What does this bill call for? What does it change?
So that's a great question. And I think it's a question that you don't see a lot in the coverage of it because the bill is getting a lot of attention and there's a lot of kind of stuff focused on, is it a license to discriminate? And I think the first thing I'll say is I don't think people are reading the bill, and I would encourage everyone to read both the original bill and then the original law, and then the bill that is proposed to amend it. Because when you read them, you can see the differences. So I think the best way to answer that question is, what does the law that's on the books do? And then you can see what the proposed legislation, how it would change it. The law that's on the books now, the Arizona Religious Freedom Restoration Act, it applies to government actions that burden the practice of religion. And so it's public lawsuits, whether you're bringing the lawsuit against the government or the government's bringing it against you and you're raising it as a defense. Classic example would be a prisoner who claims that the Department of Corrections is not giving them a meal that's consistent with their religious beliefs. There was a case in Arizona where a man was arrested for having marijuana. He claimed that that was his religious practice. And so in both of those instances, you're dealing with government action.
Yes.
1062 is taking away this idea that there has to be government action in order to raise a religious freedom claim. Effectively, what the bill does is it creates a defense to a discrimination claim, and the substance of the defense is, I have religious freedom, I took an act based on my faith, and therefore I have the freedom to do it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And so with that in mind, how much are religious liberties protected?
Under the current law or the proposed law?
Yes.
Good question. So under the current law, I don't think a lot. So the law has been on the books, the law that's already in place since 1999. Mm-hmm. I did a little looking this morning. I found 10 reported cases that raise the statute. And one scholar thinks it's possible that not enough people know about the law. But in those 10 cases, I don't think anyone in Arizona has ever won a claim under the existing law.
That's because they couldn't show a compelling interest? Is that the idea?
It's because the government had a compelling interest.
Yes,
and so
exactly.
It's really hard to show that you can overcome that compelling interest.
Yes.
And so, whether that means religious freedom is protected or not, I think is a different question. But it's certainly the case that under the proposed law, that there would be much more room to argue that you have a claim to religious freedom. It expands the law drastically.
Okay,
Yeah.
with that in mind.
Sure.
Scenario.
Okay.
Muslim cab driver refuses to drop a rider off at a synagogue.
Okay.
Allowed under 1062?
Possibly.
Allowed without 1062?
No.
All right, scenario. Christian construction worker
Okay.
refuses to build or help build a mosque. Allowed 1062?
Possibly.
How about current law?
No.
One more.
Love it.
Two men holding hands walk into a restaurant and they are refused service. Allowed under 1062?
Yes.
Current law?
Yes.
Interesting.
I know. Well, it depends on where it is. The mayor was here a second ago, and he was talking about Phoenix has an ordinance protecting on the basis of sexual orientation. And so in Phoenix, would that be allowed? Probably not, because the protection is against public accommodations, which basically is just a business that's making itself available to the public, a store, a bank, a hotel, anything that says, public, come in and do business with my establishment. And so in some municipalities, Phoenix, Tucson, Flagstaff, the business would not be able to say, I refuse to serve a same-sex couple or a person just because they're gay. The rest of Arizona, that would be perfectly legal, because Arizona does not protect against discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation.
So when we had the mayor on, because he was saying that the state law would impact city ordinances to a certain degree,
That's
but
right.
you're saying not necessarily to this degree.
To which degree?
Of the two guys holding hands walking into a restaurant in Phoenix, can't discriminate.
In Phoenix can't discriminate. But if you left Phoenix, then you could.
So even with 1062,
I believe that 1062,
it doesn't supersede.
I believe that the 1062 would supersede. I think it's giving a
Okay.
defense to,
All right.
so in the situation that you've raised, and let's just make it tangible. So it's in a restaurant, the couple comes in.
Yes.
And they say, we'd like to be served, and the restaurant says, no, we don't serve same-sex couples.
Yes.
In Phoenix, the couples would have a claim, they'd have a discrimination claim. What 1062 does is it gives the restaurant a defense to that claim, saying that my reason not to serve you was grounded in religious freedom.
So when the supporters of this say that nothing that is already illegal becomes legal with 1062, are they right?
I don't believe they are.
How come?
Exactly for the reason that we just said. So the supporters of the law have been saying it's a minor change to
Yes.
the existing law. It's not a minor change because the distinction between government action and private action is really quite large. And so one of the things that we have to figure out, and it's not entirely clear to me, is when you leave the category of sexual orientation, how 1062 is going to affect other forms of discrimination. You haven't been able to discriminate on the basis of race for 50 years. It's actually the anniversary of the Civil Rights Act this year, the 50th anniversary. And so it's possible to me that 1062 would create a defense to a race discrimination claim grounded in religious freedom.
Right. That's and back to the cab driver and back to the construction
Exactly.
worker. However, if the construction worker, again, a fundamentalist, and name whatever religion you want, we'll just say that they're fundamentalists,
Sure.
whatever, and they are helping build a gay church, a specifically gay church, and they'd say, I can't do it. It is
Yeah.
against my sincerely held beliefs.
Right.
1062 says that's okay?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speculation here
Yes.
because we don't have a lot to go on, and the law doesn't say very much. And so it would seem to me that in that instance, you're bidding two religious convictions against one another, if I'm understanding the hypothetical correctly.
Right.
And it would seem to me then that the defendant in that case would be allowed to raise a religious freedom defense. In fact, I mean, one proponent who has been arguing pretty aggressively about in support of 1062 has given an example very similar to that, using the example of a bakery. If a fundamentalist church came in and they said, we would like you to make us a cake, and we would like the cake to say no fags, would the bakery be obligated to make the cake? And their argument is that 1062 gives a defense to the bakery when the person buying the cake sues for discrimination.
Okay, so along that particular line, if I open Ted's Hamburger Hamlet, or if the bakery opens their bakery, or the flower shop, how much, when they become a part of the public square, they take advantage of public infrastructure,
Yeah.
The social contract is in place,
Yeah.
how much are they required to serve the public, regardless of who the public is?
It's almost, well, let me back up. So generally in this country, you are free, if you own a business, to refuse service to someone if you don't want to serve them. The only real limitation on that are anti-discrimination laws, civil rights laws. And they're really limited. They say you can't discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, disability. Some say sexual orientation, most don't. And so once you open your business, you are subject to those laws because the Civil Rights Act demanded it, and then the state Civil Rights Acts kind of added on to it.
All right. Well, we have to stop it right there. It's fascinating stuff. It probably could be moot if the governor vetoes it, but it's still very interesting. It's good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And that is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of 8, members of your Arizona PBS station. Thank you.